I am genuinely hooked on this game. An explanation of how Dead by Daylight works will seem overly simple to the point of sounding boring. Basically, 4 survivors run around the map holding RB to start 5 generators and open a gate, while also not getting spiked onto a meat hook by one of the many horror icons. Just holding RB to do everything should be boring as hell, and it is quite annoying, but it's also insanely tense. The QuickTime prompts that alert the killer if you fail them are a good reason to keep you paying attention, but it's being able to move the camera around and keep an eye out for the killer that makes it so suspenseful. It'll also take more than just keeping an eye out to survive, since the only real way to keep tabs on the killer is to listen out for the heartbeat that grows louder and louder as the killer gets closer and closer. And that heartbeat can warn you about a wide array of different killers. For those of you that don't want to spend more money on top of the 30 odd quid you spent to get the game, the amount of killers to choose from is fairly small. As a matter of fact, there's only about 6 options. If you do want to pay extra though, you'll be able to slaughter innocent people as Nemesis, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Pyramid Head, Ghostface, Leatherface, Demogorgon, and last, as well as definitely least, the Pigman from Saw.
Most people are so ungrateful.
And on top of those horror film icons, there's also a handful of horror story inspired creatures. It's really a shame they're all locked behind quite hefty priced DLCs, but that said, you can still go up against all the DLC monstrosities even if you yourself haven't paid for them. The same goes for all the maps. Mostly, you'll be running around similar looking dark forests, but there's still a good amount of variation to be found in the labs, schools, and towns that have been added since the game's launch, all of which are free in updates. It's actually really refreshing to see a game so filled with DLC that doesn't shut out certain sections of the player base. But it's not the maps, or the gameplay, or even the silly amount of DLC that makes Dead by Daylight a sheer joy to play. It's the moment-to-moment decision making. Do I risk rescuing another player from the meat hook, or do I run away and save myself? Those little choices that make the difference between life and death are what keeps the game entertaining each and every time you load into a match. Forget the game's items and upgrade system. I've never seen any of the items or perks make a real difference in the outcome of a match, and to be honest, the game is tense enough without them. That said, I do wish the game had more costume customization options. Every game is better with more character customization options. I'm side-eyeing you, Cyberpunk. I suppose this is the bit of the video where I say how I feel about the killer's side of the gameplay, but honestly, I don't have much to say. You run after the survivors, hit them, and string them up on a meat hook. Rinse and repeat. I really appreciate how each killer feels unique. They all have their own special ability that in equal parts makes some scarier, like Nemesis's uncanny ability to just know where you are and charge at you full force, or Ghostface's lack of a heartbeat that lets him sneak up on you. Despite that though, the killer's side of things does get dull fairly quickly for me. Luckily, it's the survivors that get all the fun. And it's lucky because when you want to play as the killer, you can't invite your friends to the lobby. You see, whenever you want to join a lobby, you pick whether you want to be a survivor or the killer, which is a good and a bad thing. It's good because, unlike in a game of Friday the 13th, you can't start a match with a friend and have them feed you all the information they need about the other player's activities. On the other, more negative hand, it means that since everyone seems to want to play as the killer, it can take quite a while to try and play a match as one. If that's a plus or a minus for Dead by Daylight, that's up to you. I'm actually fine with it. I think it's a good choice for the game. I do, however, still have a handful of silly nitpicks. Firstly, despite the volume of playable survivors and killers, none of them really play vastly different from each other. Meaning that whether you're fighting Nemesis or a demon nurse, there's not much of a change in tactics. Because at the end of the day, no matter what monsters are hunting you, all you're doing is running to a generator and then running away again when the killer gets close. The same goes for the killers. They might have a skill tree and separate perks for each one, but you'll still be doing the same thing over and over again. Secondly, would it have killed the devs to let you move the camera while you're spectating? It'd make being dead so much more interesting. Oh, and also, every now and again the game stutters and freezes, always seemingly at the worst time. It's not nearly often enough to be a serious issue, by which I mean I was never killed by it. Those last two issues are fairly petty, essentially just nitpicks really. But that, I think, does a good job of showing how well put together Dead by Daylight is.
Why are they doing this?
Are you kidding me? Look at this place. It's like Christmas.
Being the killer is cool and fun in its own ways, but it's the desperate struggle of the survivors that kept me coming back for more torment. Well, unless the game was filled with bots. In which case, I just left, because the survivor bots are dumb as pig shit, while the killer bot is an absolute nightmare that somehow just seems to know exactly where you are at all times. That is an outright negative and not a nitpick, by the way. If anything comes close to ruining Dead by Daylight, it's the bots. I'd sooner wait longer to get into a game than have to deal with that shit. Honestly, that's it though. Apart from some minor performance issues and very, very crappy AI, Dead by Daylight is great. So if you've been itching to get your hands on a horror-themed, adrenaline-fueled, nightmare runaround, this is one of only a few potential games for you. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Please let us know what you think about Dead by Daylight. Have you bought the DLC? Will you never buy any DLC? I think we fall in the never camp, but we're still having fun with it anyway. If you did have the time to leave a like or even subscribe to the channel, that would mean so much to us and it would help us out a lot. Thank you so much. Cheers.